Recently, China and Russia held joint military exercises in the Sea of Japan. The Chinese naval and air forces participating in the Northern Alliance 2023 exercise have already set off. Interestingly, the exercise took place in the Sea of Japan. I'm sure when our Japanese friends heard this news, their hearts must have raced, and they probably couldn't sleep at night out of fear. Do you remember the popular game, Monopoly, from the past? This joint military exercise is like playing a skip-a-turn magic card on the game board. You see, this is the real-life version of Monopoly, except that China and Russia's magic card has turned the Sea of Japan into a safe island. The Chinese naval fleet includes missile destroyers like the Qiqihar and Guiyang, among others. Looking at this lineup, it's like sending out a full roster of League of Legends All-Stars with an added team of helicopters, creating a mobile sky fortress. Meanwhile, Russia is not one to be outdone, as they have sent their star fleet consisting of the Gromky and Sovereign warships. You see, China and Russia are jointly hosting a luxurious aircraft carrier fashion show in the Sea of Japan. However, this time, our audience friends can only watch it on TV. For Japan, seeing China and Russia showing affection in their own waters must be as complicated as the chicken in a pot. Crispy on the outside, but cold on the inside. I believe they are silently wishing for this maritime fashion show to end soon, as they want to watch One Piece. Furthermore, I have to say, these exercises are like a real-life version of Game of Thrones, with continuous suspenseful plotlines that make people eagerly anticipate the next season. Through these exercises, China and Russia are proclaiming to the world, we are world-class performers. Give us a stage, and we can deliver a stunning military version of Shakespeare. It seems like the next season of Game of Thrones is taking place in China and Russia's home turf. Are you ready, dear audience? Now, let's talk about the Chinese economy. Did you know that China's National Bureau of Statistics recently announced a GDP growth rate of 6.3% for the second quarter? Here, let's applaud for this number. But don't get too excited. Do you think this is a sign of great prosperity? Wrong. It's actually just an economic magic show. Do you know what magicians love to do the most? It's distorting reality and making you see what they want you to see. Due to the impact of the pandemic and city lockdowns, China's GDP only grew by 0.4% in the second quarter of last year. Then the magician used this 0.4% as the base for this year's second quarter, and voila! Suddenly, a growth rate of 6.3% appeared, making the data look very beautiful, like a big rabbit pulled out of a hat. Unfortunately, this big rabbit is actually very light, lighter than a small rabbit. If we compare it to the first quarter of this year, the second quarter only grew by 0.8%. So, should we be happy? I think we all know the answer. It's like pursuing a girl, and after a quarter of effort, you only make 0.8% progress. Are you satisfied? Ironically, this 0.8% was achieved when you gave it your all. I think the girl might be ready to call the police. At the same time, there's an issue we can't ignore, which is the youth unemployment rate in China. Have you heard the latest figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics? The youth unemployment rate stands at a staggering 21.3%, which is much more stimulating than the little rabbit our magician conjured up. We all know that young people are the future of society and the hope of families. But where are they now? They're at home playing with their phones, binge-watching shows in bed, or staring blankly in their rooms because they can't find jobs. It's an ironic situation where China's GDP is growing, but where is the future for China's youth? It's like going to the gym, paying a hefty membership fee, working out diligently every day, and seeing your muscles grow bigger and your weight decrease. You think you're looking more and more handsome. But when you return home, you find that your girlfriend has left you, and your home is empty. You take out your phone and look at your pictures, all the hard work at the gym is there, but where is your life? Lastly, let's take a look at the truth behind these economic figures. China's GDP has grown, but Chinese consumers remain skeptical about economic recovery. China's GDP has grown, but Chinese companies hesitate to expand production or invest. China's GDP has grown, but there are hardly any signs of improvement in the real estate market. China's GDP has grown, but the youth unemployment rate in China has reached a historic high. It's like you're celebrating, but your family members are struggling in their sickbeds. That's our economic stand-up comedy show for today. China faces numerous unknowns and challenges. I know it doesn't sound very funny, but remember, the truth is often funnier than jokes. Hopefully, the next time we meet, we can laugh even happier because China's economy is truly starting to recover. China's foreign minister, Qin Gang, has been missing for a whole 3 weeks. You might think, Hey, I haven't seen him in public places for a while, but that's because we're practicing social distancing, while he seems to be practicing political distancing. The timing of the disappearance of this foreign minister is just too coincidental, happening during a period of intense diplomatic activities. Let me think, the last time I saw him was after his meetings with officials from Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and Russia, and then he disappeared like he walked into an invisibility cloak from Harry Potter. I hope his vacation spot is not the Bermuda Triangle. The most amusing part is when asked about the reason for Qin Gang's disappearance, the spokesperson of the foreign ministry responded with no information to provide. Just imagine the irony, a country's foreign minister goes missing, and the spokesperson of the foreign ministry has no information to provide. It's like going to McDonald's and asking if you can have some fries, and they respond, sorry, we only sell burgers. While Qin Gang is missing, diplomatic activities in Beijing are unusually busy, with high-ranking U.S. officials like Janet Yellen and John Kerry visiting China. It's like inviting a bunch of friends to your house to hang out, but you hide under the bed and let your roommate entertain them. I have to say, Qin Gang's disappearance has really caught everyone's attention. It's like his own brilliant, magic performance. One minute he was there, the next he was gone. We must admit, he could definitely secure a spot in China's Got Talent. Now, there are rumors that Qin Gang might have had a child with a female spy. Well, the development of this story is more exciting than any TV drama. A Minister of Foreign Affairs, a mysterious female spy, and a possible child. This is simply a perfect combination of 007 and Desperate Housewives. I heard that the female spy is also a famous TV host in China. This is even more interesting. The love story of a foreign minister and a TV host. I hope their first meeting was not in a dull political discussion program, that would be too uncreative. Alright, tomorrow we might come back to continue discussing Qin Gang's mysterious disappearance. Maybe we will hear that he opened a new Chinese embassy on the moon. You know, in China, anything can happen as long as you dare to think. The new rule issued by the China Tobacco Bureau is that within 3 generations, blood relatives are not allowed to apply for jobs. First of all, you have to admit, the Tobacco Bureau is a magical place. Normally, when you want to find a job, you have to interview, you have to write a resume, you have to strive. But in the Tobacco Bureau, everything becomes more interesting because all you might need is a DNA test. If you have the Tobacco Bureau gene in your DNA, congratulations, you might be refused at the door. The new rule came out, and I think many people's first reaction is, can this really work? After all, our society has entered a complex network era, networks of relationships, family, friends, LinkedIn network, and that thing that is harder to change than DNA, face network. You don't let me hire relatives, I can hire friends. You don't let me hire friends, I can hire distant relatives. You don't let me hire distant relatives, I can hire. Well, I might need to buy a bigger family tree. Some people worry, can this regulation be implemented? Who will supervise its implementation? This is a good question. What would you do when you have an invisible nepotism hanging over your head? What we see is the desire for social fairness and open employment, and deep hatred for the employment environment where one person is in power and all his relatives are promoted. But can you imagine one day, we will see on job postings, requirement, must prove that within 3 generations, there is no blood relation with any company employees. Please attach your 23andMe or Ancestry DNA test results. This is a reflection on our society and an interesting little episode in our social development. I just hope this is a start, letting everyone have a fair chance to achieve their dreams, no matter who our ancestors are. I have a dream that one day, everyone can obtain the opportunities they deserve based on their abilities, their efforts, their contributions, not their background, their relatives, their connections. This dream may still be far away from us, but every small step is a start. So let's cheer for this small step by the Tobacco Bureau. Maybe it's a brick on our road to fair employment. Record-breaking high temperatures have persisted in the northern hemisphere for several weeks, and scientists say climate change has exacerbated the situation. Against this backdrop, John Kerry, the U.S. White House's climate envoy, opened a 4-day, 3-night visit to Beijing, China, on the 16th, restarting efforts to combat global warming. China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment said the two sides would exchange ideas on how to collaborate in tackling climate change. Climate negotiations between China and the U.S., the world's 2 largest carbon emitters, have been suspended for nearly a year. Observers in China have low expectations for the trip, partly because the Chinese government, like most governments, does not like to appear to be forced into action. I don't think they're going to let themselves look like John Kerry is coming here to tell them what to do, said Michael Greenstone, a professor of economics at the University of Chicago. Jake Sullivan, the White House's national security advisor, said in a CBS interview on the 16th that China's move to restrict exports of gallium and germanium would be self-defeating, only prompting other countries to find ways to reduce dependence and strengthen the resilience of their own supply chains. The U.S. has imposed a series of high-tech export controls on China since last year, and China announced in early July this year that it will restrict the export of gallium and germanium from August, a move seen as a counterattack against the U.S. Sullivan reiterated the U.S.'s stance on China on the 16th. We are not seeking a complete disruption of trade with China. What we are seeking is small-scale, strict control of technologies that impact national security. Previously, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, Treasury Secretary Yellen and others have made similar statements. As China seeks to expand its influence, its interference in the global overseas Chinese community is intensifying. Canadian intelligence agencies, current and former elected officials, and experts studying China's state misinformation campaigns say that several elected officials critical of Beijing have now become targets of the Chinese government. Senior Chinese Canadian activists and politicians say that in places like Vancouver where there are the most Chinese Canadians, the influence of the Chinese consulate and its allies has grown with the wave of immigration from China. The Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association is one of the oldest and most influential community organizations in Vancouver. Both the association and the Chinese consulate publicly state on their websites that they have a close relationship. NATO allies still look up to the United States, but sometimes there are divergences in strategic priorities. If China attacks Taiwan and goes to war with the United States, NATO members have no obligation to join. Experts say the U.S. expectation for Europe is diplomatic support and support for sanctions against China. These discussions should be held now, not when a war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait. The U.S. and its allies in Europe and the Asia-Pacific region are uniting to jointly deal with challenges from Russia and China. A series of diplomatic activities last week showed both the resilience and the limitations of this unity. These countries are increasingly convinced that China and Russia are two sides of the same coin, and believe it necessary to address the challenge from China. U.S. and Japanese military officials have been working on a plan for a conflict over Taiwan, but these talks have yet to resolve a key issue: will Japan join the fight? Japanese leaders have avoided public discussions about the role in a possible Taiwan war. A former senior official of the Japanese Ministry of Defense said Japan would not seek to be on the front lines. Insiders revealed that the U.S. has urged Japan to consider letting its military take responsibility for tasks such as searching for Chinese submarines around Taiwan, but no commitments have been made. A political science professor at Keio University in Japan said, "If you ask people whether they would risk their lives to defend Taiwan, I think 90% of Japanese would say, no." On the 16th, the UK officially joined the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, becoming the first new member since the CPTPP was established and the first European country to join, marking the extension of the CPTPP to Europe. China and Taiwan also applied for membership in September 2021, with China strongly opposing Taiwan's participation. The joint statement by the CPTPP said that its review of the applications for membership from China, Taiwan, and others is ongoing. Australian Assistant Trade Minister Eales revealed that it is unlikely for China to join the CPTPP in the short term. The Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, Sogavare, said on the 17th that the United States and Australia should not worry about China providing police support to the Solomon Islands. Sogavare recently signed a police cooperation agreement with China, raising concerns among countries such as Australia and the United States. However, Sogavare criticized this as foreign governments intervening in Solomon Islands' internal affairs. The Solomon Islands signed a secret security agreement with China in 2022, but Sogavare denied allowing Chinese troops. The latest work by Chinese singer Crazy Lao Zhang, who is in exile in the United States, deals with current social phenomena in China, sparking widespread resonance but also touching the nerves of Chinese authorities. Recently, Crazy Lao Zhang has been threatened by various Chinese government departments, but he has stated that he will not yield. The Vatican said on the 15th that Pope Francis has approved the appointment of Shen Bin as Bishop of the Shanghai Diocese to fill the vacancy. However, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Parolin said in another interview on the same day that Beijing did not consult the Pope on the appointments of Bishop Shen Bin of Shanghai and the previous Bishop of Yuzhong, Yangshi, which the Pope found very regrettable. China became the world's first country to use AI news anchors in 2018. Following closely was India, which introduced AI anchor Sana in April this year, during an event attended by Prime Minister Modi. Now, she broadcasts news several times a day on the Aaj Talk channel of the India Today group. Hello everyone, I am your news anchor Yali. We provide you with a one-stop service for news from China here every day. Please leave your comments in the comments section. We will read and reply to your comments seriously. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Take care.